Okay, welcome back to Nick Lenz's Doctor Who review, episode number 82. Yeah, we're discussing a Sixth Doctor story, which is also, I actually reviewed this accidentally out of order, because I initially thought that the next story, which is going to be another Sixth Doctor one, I thought that was the finale for season 22. Nope, this one was. So I reviewed this one out of order by accident. Kind of. We have the final story to talk about for In Color of the Daleks. That's what this story basically has here. Plus, this is also the final story featuring Devros and Doctor Who. Yep, this is the last story to talk about here. And it's the only time he was ever featured in Doctor Who, along with Daleks, where it was 45-minute episodes. And it's only a quick two-parter. And it aired from March 23rd to March 30th of 1985. Next season aired for 18 months. So, now, in this story, there is a reference to an off-screen adventure basically, Devros, for some strange reason, you first see him, he's in basically his head instead of his case. Yeah, as they later explain in the following story, it's actually basically a fake. Yeah, that's not the real him. But here's the strange thing about this story. Did you know the story basically has a bit of continuity established here that New Who kept? We'll get to that. So Doctor and Perry arrive on Necros, that's the name of the planet, and we see the Doctor wearing blue. Which, of course, here's a fun fact. When the Sixth Doctor got basically brought in for audio drama stories, they changed it from this coat that he wears here to the blue coat that he wears nowadays. And it was described by Perry as yuck. Yes. Perry, sadly, this was her third and last appearance on, Doctor Who, though technically she appeared for the last story featuring Sixth Doctor Maker, but her third and last regular appearance, because she appeared for the first two stories of the very next season, which I'll talk about in a later story. Basically, I'll talk about the Trial of Time Lord 2 episodes from now, because next I'm discussing two doctors. So, they arrive in Necros to see a friend of Doctor's who died, and here's the strange thing about this. Okay, so they get there, and they spend almost the entire episode walking around this place, this trying to find the entrance to this place. They hop over a wall, the Doctor's watch gets smashed, and then they kind of get to this statue of him, which falls over on him. And I know this thing is kind of weird, because their section of this thing looks like it's in three pieces. I don't know, this may be a goof on the part of the people who did this, and he crushes. That's something kind of in part one with him being crushed, but and the next episode, he's perfectly fine. It wasn't a statue. But in the case of what goes on inside this place where, there's a funeral going on, there's also potential body snatchers. Yeah, the body snatcher thing, that was done by Devros to make Daleks, the white Daleks. Now, here's the strange thing about this story. Because the last time Devros was seen in Doctor Who, which was Resurrected Daleks, which was like a year prior to this thing. Actually, 2 years. Just 2 years prior to the events of the story, we had to resurrect Daleks. And that was his last appearance in Doctor Who prior to this. And he died. And he appears here alive. Like, what happened here? I'll get to that, don't worry. Because the explanation is weird. Of stuff here. There's been some plot holes here. And it takes freaking audio dramas to explain this. So, there's all this funeral for this president's dead wife. Those these flowers, which are here or there, and we have the director where you have his little nurse look like she has a thing for him. This plays a minor role in the story, and then the very next episode, because it turns out he basically kind of in a way cheated on her, despite the fact they were not a couple. And because he committed treasonous acts with Devros, the girl murders the director. With a frickin' syringe. He's like, what'd you do that for? Yeah. There's also this DJ in the show. Yes. where the first time we see him, he's got long hair, sideburns, and he dressed like a hippie. The very next time we see him, he dressed like a greaser, and then his hair disappears, along with his sideburns, and he wears the outfit of the people working at this funeral parlor. Yeah, and also Dev Ross had this sort of food supply stuff. It's like, what? Yes, really. It's a weird story. Like, okay, so apparently they created a special protein that's needed. Except the protein is made from originally from dead bodies. Like, ugh, that's disgusting. Yeah. And then, of course, they have the story like, oh, we're going to use these flowers. We see out the whole story. That apparently is new protein. Because apparently the chief of security, he's obsessed with flowers. Yes, a guy obsessed with flowers. So, and by the way, Dev Ross is referred to here as the Great Healer. Okay, how the heck he got here? Okay, supposedly he was on a spaceship that exploded. He's like, how did you survive? Escape pod. And you watch this story, and you see this explanation of Dr. Meets up with Dev Ross later on in the story, and you're wondering, what the heck are these two talking about? Dev Ross died the last time you see it on screen. Well, it takes an audio drama released 20 years after this freaking story came out to explain this. Apparently he was on this merchant ship and it exploded and he escaped via escape pod. Check out the story, Dev Ross, which I probably will cover that at some point in the future when I get a chance to listen to it. But you're like, really? It takes an audio drama to explain a bit of conversation between the Doctor and Dev Ross. And apparently from Dev Ross' perspective, because of the way he's talking, it seems like he's not surprised the fact Doctor regenerated. But the Daleks, the way they've written this story is like, they have no idea this is a Doctor. He's like, he is not the Doctor. He doesn't compute the appearances, probably referring to the Fifth Doctor. And Dev Ross is like, he regenerated, you idiots! Which he acknowledges that, but of course he doesn't say that to the Doctor. Oh, you regenerated. Yes. I at least got praise that the Cello Mallory is not written to be stupid. Because I appreciate his portrayal of Dev Ross, and by the way, the next appearance he appears in, which was the start of season 25 of the show, which came like a few years after this. Yeah, that was his last appearance ever on Doctor Who, and you see, like, wait, why the heck is the Emperor? Now, of course, they mentioned about the Emperor of the Daleks, and of course, becomes the Emperor, and that story is awesome. But that's only minor nitpick when it comes to that story. This one, it's like, okay, and we have this woman we have Dev Ross working with, which you're thinking, what? Yeah, and apparently that this DJ apparently has contact with everybody. Now, you know something that's really weird about this story? The TARDIS is mentioned several times. It is briefly seen in the start of the story, and then never seen again. As a matter of fact, when the story ends, the Doctor has to go to a particular place. It freeze framed just before he said what location we're going to go to, and from what I read, apparently this is going to have him go to Blackpool. Which, get this, according to what I read online, apparently in the very next story, we're going to see the return of the Celestial Toymaker. Which, here's a strange fun fact. Did you know they're actually planning on returning, bringing back the Celestial Toymaker for New Who? And he's played by the awesome Neil Patrick Harris. Yes, it has been confirmed he's playing the Celestial Toymaker. I'm like, damn. And by the way, they actually adapt that unpublished story for a novel and an audio drama, which I'm looking forward to listening to that when I get a chance to. And it's called The Nightmare Fair. I'm like, that's interesting. I'll check it out someday. Oh, by the way, there's your DJ for you. Yeah. By the way, it's written by Eric Stewart, which is interesting. Now, here's the thing about this one. Now, okay, do they have the thing when they mention? Oh yeah, here's Perry. She's hot. Yep, they do in this story. It seems like every story I've seen her pop up, and people note the fact Perry's hot. Which, yes, Nicole Bryant was very beautiful at the time. But here's kind of the thing. Do we need to be reminded by every single character she encounters? Oh, look, it's a pretty lady. Yes, I'm sure. I don't know if Nicole Bright even liked this at all. It is quite odd to say the least. It is. Now, this is by far. Is this a terrible Dalek story? No, not really. As a matter of fact, the Daleks don't really play a role in the story at all until like the very end. Where like, oh, we have these silver Daleks show up, which these seem like the real Daleks, while these white with gold are the what I refer to as the Imperial Daleks, and the Silver Daleks, referred to in the next story as the Renegade Daleks. Mention the whole thing about the Supreme Dalek, which he gets mentioned in the story, but it's not like a physical appearance. So apparently, the real Daleks come to Necros because these two security guys contacted them because Devros is there. You're thinking, what? What's going on with this? Why? And here's the thing. They're after Devros for crimes against Skaro. Crimes against Daleks. And you're thinking, what the heck are they talking about? Is this explaining one of the audio dramas, you might be asking? Well, I think so. Yeah, I'm trying to find out here. Let's see. Oh, there's also the story where Devros hovers, except that I saw in the story that apparently the guy who he's the assassin who was hired to kill him, his leg goes right through the hover thing, which basically vaporizes his leg. Yeah, that was technical error on the part of them. My guess is it may do with the Devros story. It's possible. So the whole thing with Devros, the stuff with them, that's to explain the story. Devros, um, Lucifer Rising, explain the origin of this group known as the Grand Order of Oberon. Okay. Okay, so there is something that happens to Devros. I was surprised this happened because I remember seeing his hand when he popped up in the Nemesis Daleks, and then he pops up in New Who. Okay, so in this story, Devros loses his hand. His hand gets destroyed. Which, here's a strange thing. Because when he popped up on Stolen Earth... Oh, by the way, this is also the first time he uses the electric finger thing. Which, that's interesting. Because... Oh, he didn't use it in the Remembrance Dalek story. No, he did not use it there. He did use this story. And, like, you're thinking, okay, so why is it New Who he's got Rebellic hand, even though he popped up in Classic Who, his hand was fine? Well, in this story, the assassin destroys his hand. He basically fires a gun and blows his hand off. I'm like, what? And they kept that for continuity? I'm like, damn. Like, that is something. Also off screen, he got a new hand. And if you're really curious why I knew who he's got a new hand, this story is the explanation for it. So, yeah, I guess this was noteworthy for that, aside from his penultimate appearance in Classic Who. But I would say of the 80s 80s Dalek stories, of the three to put out, Resurrection, Revolution, and Remembrance, this one I think is the more weaker one of the three. I would say the strongest of the three is Remembrance. Remembrance is awesome. I love Remembrance. Resurrection, I think, is still pretty good. I think it's the second best of these three. Of the ones produced in color, like, if you think overall of the ones produced in color, like, what is the worst one? I would probably say, is it Destiny? No. Surprisingly, it's not Destiny. I think it's Death of Dalek. That's probably the worst one because it's so stupidly. Because Daleks are so stupid in that one. I would say the strongest ones. I would say the best one out of all Dalek series published in color is Genesis Daleks. That one is pure awesomeness at its finest. I would rank it number one, and it's also my favorite Dalek story overall. And I think a lot of people agree with me on that. That's probably the best Dalek story produced in color. Overall, I definitely say so. I've heard anyway people say it's the best one, best Dalek story. It's also one of the greatest Doctor stories ever told. This one, here's something kind of weird though. Apparently, out of all the Colin Baker stories, this one's listed as the best one. Yep. Out of all the stories. Like, apparently I think this is better than Attack of the Cybermen. And Attack of the Cybermen's awesome. I love that story. It's always amazing. Oh, by the way, does Dalek destroy a Dalek in the story? Oh, yes, he does. They have Dalek destroy the story via this special energy beam that the DJ just happens to have. For some reason. Also, his studio looks like his bedroom. I'm like, what? Yeah, the DJ thing is weird. It's like he just shows up completely randomly. Like, he communicates stuff you see on the security screen. And Perry wanted to meet him when they first arrived. I'm like, why? Why the heck would I meet this idiot? But, yeah. But, if I would rank basically Dalek stories published in color, what would rank as the worst? I still think it's Death Daleks. I would say just above that. I would probably would I put this one? Well, I'd say, what would be number 2? Remembrance. Yes, Remembrance Dalek. That one's awesome as well. Actually, I put that just at the same level as Genesis. That both of those really good. Okay, what would be just below those two for the ones published in color? I'd probably say it's probably Day of the Daleks. I'd say that would be number. I'd say overall, if you rank all these stories, I would say Genesis Dalek number 1. Number 2 is Remembrance. Number 3, I'll put Day of the Daleks. What would be number 4? Let's see. I would say number 4 is probably... I think it's Resurrection Daleks. Yes, I put Resurrection Daleks number 4. And these are published in color. Now, overall, the ones published in color for Classic Who, I would say just below Resurrection, Planet of the Daleks, and just below Planet, this story, and the bottom one would be Death. That's how I rank them. Overall. If anybody has a problem with my ranking order, of how I rank the Dalek stories in color, like, feel free to list up basically what you think is the best one, which one you think is the worst one. I do not think that this one is the worst one. No. I still think it's Death Daleks. That's the worst one. And with this also, I am done reviewing Dalek stories in color. Because here's a strange thing. You think, okay, so which doctor is left for reviewing for Dalek stories? This might surprise you because I reviewed the 2 stories that the 2 times that the second Doctor took on the Daleks in Power and Evil. But here's the strange thing though. Overall for Classic Who, the only Dalek stories that are left are part of the first Doctor's run. And like, one of the stories is missing. And that's, I think it's the Dalek Master Plan. There's like half the story missing. But a lot of the Dalek stories are intact, surprisingly. But yeah, this particular view. Next up we have is a comic corner. Actually, 2 comic corners. And then it's on to Bleach. Okay, next view. Bye.